What do clubs do in this situation?
I think a situation like this only occur amongst the elite players, like the players in the top 1 or top 5% bracket.
Like you got to be immensely confident of your abilities to do something of that sort.
I almost think we're transitioning to a different phase of trades and moves, and where contracts are almost meaningless.
People who have like massive contracts are playing PS5 all night because, oh well, I mean that's more important than turning up for training, right?
It's like they're too big to fail.
Correct. That's what we said about Arsenal as well. But I think I don't know if that's still the case.
No one's staying at Dortmund, right, for long enough. Even Klopp moved. Like that. That's how sad the story is for Dortmund.
Imagine Ibrahimovic comes to the ISL.
Oh, that
Oh.
would be sweet.
That would be mad. If
He literally left Barcelona to leave Messi, and the fucking guy followed him to PSG. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All About Sports, the podcast, a podcast by the fans and for the fans. You're joined by three of your hosts today, myself, Rishabh. We have Aniket Gui
What up, boys?
and Shubham Malu as well.
yo guys, what's up?
So before we get into this week's episode, let's do a quick reminder of last week's episode. We did a review of Team India. We talked a lot about Virat Kohli and some of the challenges he's faced, managing captaincy for all three formats, and also some of his batting struggles relative to the high standards he set for himself, and also India's potent bowling attack. So make sure to check that out. With that, let's get into this week's episode. We really wanted to do kind of a review of transfers and trades a little bit across sports, because in recent years we've seen so many transfer sagas really across sports. A lot of players holding out for better contracts, a lot of players holding out to make sure they get the kind of moves they want to get. It's been a very interesting trend, which has meant pretty much every year we've had a very, very exciting transfer season, especially in basketball and football. Really, really fun with huge players moving across teams. So, Gui, I want to go to you first. It's a little bit different from what we're used to, where, maybe 10, 15 years back, players may even see out their contracts all 5 years. We never saw this thing of players not showing up to training if they want to move, maybe one offs, but it's almost become a regular day occurrence now. Gui, when did this flip switch, and when has this trend started such that it's pretty much normal now?
So here's the thing, right? Somewhere I feel like somewhere in the early 2010s is where players really realized what they bring to the table. Like the sport is not running because the club is functioning. The sport is running because these guys are willing to play. All right. Specifically, I remember probably on the first ones. Okay, I'm not even going to say Fabregas. I'm going to say Theo Walcott. I'm going to go with Theo Walcott in the early, I think, 2012 or 13, where it was just I want to play striker. If you cannot guarantee that I play striker, I am not signing a new contract. And I'm like, you're negotiating with someone who's been managing this football club for the last 15 years at that point, 15, 16, 17 years at that point. And it's like, that's like, you got to be immensely confident of your abilities to do something of that sort. Fabregas had a transfer saga. I mean, it was nothing of this sort that he was holding out for a contract, but uh, I remember RVP not signing again. Now these are all very close to my heart. Right?
There's a certain pattern here. I'm trying to think what it is.
So I remember RVP as well. Just dragging. I mean, transfer talks have been going like, okay, Arsenal are notoriously bad, or were at least. I don't not showing immense progress of late either, but we were notoriously bad in terms of negotiating contracts well before the last year of the contract. And of course, we bore the brunt a few times. But yeah, the early 2010s is where it happened. Okay, Theo Walcott didn't live up to his potential. He's great uh, player for Arsenal in terms of number of goals he scored, number of years of service he provided. But the hype was not justified, and even he had the audacity to uh, hold a club of Arsenal size by the throat and say that I want XYZ contract. And well, now I don't think, I mean, the lesser said the better about how players are behaving, almost like not showing up to trainings. People who have like massive contracts are playing PS5 all night because, oh well, I mean that's more important than turning up for training, right?
No, it's a great point, Gui, and I think you make it's an interesting point because some players when they hold out, it actually doesn't work out for them maybe the way they expected. I think Theo Walcott's a good example of someone who held out for the number 9 spot, maybe for like a season or so, did get to play it on and off, and he had one, I remember, epic game against Newcastle where he scored a hat trick and played insanely. He played fantastically, and I remember getting my hopes up, thinking he can play the number 9. But it's a good point to this, getting an idea of when it started and when it's grown. Malu, I wanted to take it then into modern day, into current day. We're seeing a lot of examples of, I'll go to football first off, right? I think Harry Kane is the big example that we've seen from this summer. In prior years, we saw Neymar as well. There was some tension of him eventually coming back to train for PSG. What do clubs do in this situation? Because I think, especially in both these situations, right? Both the Neymar and the Harry Kane situation, they eventually just said, if we don't get a good deal, we're not going to sell them. It doesn't care if they're bad for morale. We don't care about all that. And you look at a situation like Neymar, from initially wanting to go to Barcelona 2 seasons ago, he is now in this incredible spot in PSG where he's super happy. What do teams do in this situation, Malu? Do they just hold on and say, like, I don't really give a shit? What is a team's best approach, in a case like this?
See, that's actually a very good question. Yeah, like, see what Harry Kane, like in Harry Kane's situation with Tottenham, it's very clear that this guy has been performing very well for his team last couple of seasons. He's been perhaps one of the best number 9s in the world, and now he wants to go to Man City. His reasons are very clear that he wants to win some silverware, and I think he's already like 28, 29. So he is at the peak of his powers, and if he doesn't get a move now, then when? And so in a situation, but also keep in mind, he signed, I think, a 5 or 6 year deal with Tottenham, I think maybe a season or 2 seasons back. And now he wants to move, and Tottenham are asking for whatever price that they want. So I think in a situation like this, the club is right. If they don't want to sell the player, they don't want to sell the player. And I think it's very unprofessional of the player to throw a fit. But also, like, because it just got me thinking, you said something like, when did this start? I think I might be totally wrong in this. I think a situation like this only occur amongst the elite players, like the players in the top 1 or top 5% bracket who are extremely good at what they do. They are the ones who can actually play the card and be like, listen, I'm not going to sign a new contract. And I think generally not signing a new contract comes down to 2 things. One is how ambitious the club is. Is the club really vying for trophies? Because these guys are serial winners and they want to be surrounded by players who will get them those trophies. And I also feel, like how Gui mentioned, post 2000 to post 2010, the amount of money that's been influxed into football gives these players such massive contracts that there are a lot of players who are more than happy to like not sign a contract and go to China or go to Saudi. Like, for example, Hulk, he was at his prime and he joined Zenit. It was purely just out of money, right? So I think that money is also a big factor as to why certain players are just not interested in signing new contracts. But coming back to your question as to what should teams do in a situation like this, see, if it's a situation like Harry Kane, I think what the club has done is absolutely perfect, that they've kept the player in because they want X amount of money. If City are willing to give that money, sure, because they are losing the star striker. They're losing a player who potentially gives them 25 goals a season, right? And after that, if Harry Kane is upset about it, then too bad, dude. You're the one who signed the contract. But in other situations where the players are like, for example, Mbappe, that guy was running out his contract and the club is getting offered 180 million or something like that. And then what's the point of keeping the player? So yeah, it's rather tricky. It comes down to a lot of details, but yeah, that's what I think.
I almost think we're transitioning to a different phase of trades and moves, and where contracts are almost meaningless. Where contracts really don't mean too much. All the contract means is it doesn't mean too much about where the player is going to be. It just means that the player can hopefully ensure he gets the same amount of compensation throughout. I want to use, a basketball example to kind of talk about this. In basketball, signing a max contract maybe 10, 15 years ago sort of meant you were going to stay with a team for at least 3 or 4 years. And maybe at the end of that, maybe when you have 1 year left on the contract, fine, you might get traded so that they get some value for you. We saw Russell Westbrook sign a huge contract with OKC, I believe a 5-year contract. 2 years in, gets traded to Houston. 1 year after that, gets traded to Washington, and now finds himself at LA for, I think, the last year of his contract, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe he re-upped in LA. But it's a bizarre concept where I'm finding in more and more recent years, there are two kind of tensions pulling at each other. I think teams are still willing to give these players these massive contracts because they have faith that even if as massive as the contract is, at some point there will be a market for the player if they need to sell the player. Take Harry Kane as example. I still believe Tottenham, they'll hold out for a good price, but I think they're confident they can get a good price at some time, or they'll keep him. And on the player side, the player feels the same way, where the player feels, yes, maybe if I want to move for whatever the reason, either it's for, if it's winning for if it's going for championships, I will find a way to get out of it. The only poor outcome that's coming out of all this is a general lack of faith between teams and clubs, and this general discomfort that's coming between players, right? There's this, I don't even understand how you go back to training the next day for a player, right? It's very evident what has happened. Right? I think, using an Arsenal example, Gui, when Alexis Sanchez eventually had to come back after making it very blatantly clear he wanted to leave, there was no qualms about the fact that it's a very, very uncomfortable experience. Gui, I did want to ask, I open this up to either of y'all. The flip side of this argument, the kind of flip side of this argument is players not leaving for money, but taking actually less money to go win somewhere, the desire to go win somewhere. Players now prioritizing one of two things, either money or winning. And in that decision to choose winning, create these epic teams that no one can really compete with. And how they've been able to do that now, when money's, in the NBA is a big example, there are contract limitations, but if a player is willing to take the minimum amount, there's nothing that you can do to stop it.
One of the I just huge plaudits to Giannis for not going with the win or bust model of moving, which is of course probably the most blatantly visible in the NBA, where super teams are now common, right? You went from the Heat Big Three or the Boston Big Three, and I mean that was immense, right? The Heat Big Three was, no, this is unfair. This is borderline unfair. Even KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, unfair. That those teams were not fair for who they were competing against. And now again, like, you kind of see that happen even more blatantly, to a point where you just come to accept that this is how it is, right? There's no such thing as team loyalty. Like, you're not going to get a player to stay in the same team just because they feel a connect, even though you've done the summer league or whatever it is, whatever the juniors league of NBA. But there's no guarantee that these players are going to hang around for long enough. If you rings, like, the conversation around rings has become so big, right? Because you watch Shaq and Chuck go at each other with this mindset only, right? Like, I have X number of rings, so you can't talk in front of me. So I think it's also like a debate which has been put into people's minds, that you need to have rings to have a seat at the table. You need to win a championship to have a seat at the table. Otherwise, all your records don't matter. Which is also now you see kind of has penetrated into football. If you ask me, like Kane being a prime example, he's been with Spurs for a very long time. The golden Pochettino years, or whatever people want to call them, he's lived through that as well. And why, I don't understand the motivation to move from that kind of a team. So even people came at Jack Grealish as well, right? Like, he should have stayed at Villa for longer. But it's not going to happen. Like, the desire to win trophies and medals, because that is what you're going to look at the end of your career, is very strong right now. Maybe it has been created. I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I was in that spot. And I don't really mind it, because in football, you can't essentially create a super team that easily, right? You can have 3 out of 5 versus 3 out of 11. Like, you get 3 big players, unless you're PSG, of course, then 11 out of 11 players are going to be great. But yes, it's much more difficult to do in football as opposed to basketball. So I have no reservations to the fact that people want to move for medals, even if they want to take a pay cut. That's perfectly fine.
No, even I think, like, it's absolutely cool if players want to move around for medals. And I was just thinking, I think since 2008 or to 2014, 15, that 7 year window when the Spanish teams, Real Madrid and Barcelona, were perhaps most dominant in football, every player was just desperate to get to the club. And I think like some of the Arsenal players itself, you have Fabregas, Song, Vermaelen, all these players they moved, and I'm not 100% sure if they got a pay cut or no, but I'm pretty certain that a lot of players during that period of being in Real Madrid's team or Barcelona's team, they would have taken a pay cut. And why not? Like the life of a professional footballer must be 15 years or something like that. I'm guessing if you start at the age of 18, you play till 33, and then after that, there's you're not at your peak. So during that time, if you want to play in the most successful clubs, successful teams, and win trophies, so that you have a great resume when you're done with playing the sport, why not?
And I also think it's a response by players to teams, right? When you make this argument of players don't have that connect maybe with the club anymore, I think they would potentially argue, well, neither does management have for us, right? At the end of the day, if a good deal comes up, and it doesn't matter too much that he's an Arsenal guy or he's a Liverpool guy, it doesn't matter. If they get the right deal, and if on the counter they can bring in someone who either makes financial sense or makes sense from a team perspective, they'll make that sacrifice. And I think it's almost a response from players to kind of manage how the teams will treat them anyway. The interesting thing that I do find, and it's almost funny, is with that, I think Gu, you brought this up already. Dennis Schroeder, like sort of, players kind of hold out for the wrong thing. The one thing that's kind of gone wrong in this whole process, I think, for at times, has been players holding out and not having the experience they wanted, right? I think Fabregas is a good comparison to make, because, and that's another one that you brought up, Gui. Fabregas was someone from Barcelona's academy, joins Arsenal, eventually always knew he wanted to go back. So I always empathize with that move. But I always think it's funny that a lot of players nowadays want to move, have a certain image of what it's like to play for a club. Like you said, Malu, the image of playing for Real Madrid or Barcelona was so high that those players almost have those teams will always have an advantage in bringing in people. Even if Real Valladolid becomes a really great team in like 4 years from now, players will always dream of that, they have that nostalgia of playing for Real Madrid or Barcelona. But I think where it's backfired is players are so keen on playing for these big teams, like Gui said, they aren't exactly getting the experience they want. And there have been so many cases like that. Gareth Bale's experience with Real Madrid, while having an amazing first 2 years, completely falls off the bandwagon after a few years. Philippe Coutinho's example with Barcelona after moving to Barcelona, all the Arsenal players who moved to Barcelona, Eden Hazard's current experience with Real Madrid. So the only tension that I think that this is the additional tension I think it's causes, sometimes I honestly think, and I can say this for myself as well, people don't know what's best for them and what they really want. And the ability to kind of make whatever move that you want is almost backfired for a lot of players and put them in situations where they're playing for clubs that maybe are too big for them at this point. Any concerns that you see with this? Because I think one of the big issues that I find with this ability for players to move wherever they want, they all start to accumulate in a few places. We're definitely seeing this in basketball, right? Gui, at the end of the day in basketball, there are two basic superpowers right now in basketball. It's the LA Lakers in the West, and it's the Brooklyn Nets in the East. And in football, we're seeing exactly the same thing, right? Basically, there's a accumulation of players, basically Manchester City and PSG, and now to some extent, United also coming up and grabbing a few more players, maybe Chelsea. Is there an issue that you guys find with this method of players being able to move wherever they want, that all the talent's going to just eventually keep permeating to the top, right? You look at a team like Tottenham, it's so amazing that they've grown as much as they have, right? They've overcome at least the North London rivals, Arsenal, and have consistently now been performing above them. But every time that happens, the thought process is not, oh man, we can now start challenging for a title. The thought process then for their best players is, oh, now let's go to a better team. Harry Kane wants to move to Man City. The same thing will happen for something like we've seen continually year after year with Dortmund, right? They get really good players. They reach almost the top. But once they reach the top, players are like, oh, we want to go to Bayern.
So what I think about it, about the situation is, let's try and find a relatable example to real life. So let's try and connect sports to real life. Now, say for example, when you're talking about elite players. Okay, now let's try and compare these elite players to like elite students passing out from B schools. Okay, like you have your Harvard and Oxford and stuff like that. These people generally end up in the best companies, your Googles and Amazon and Facebook and whatever comes, like the biggest banks, the biggest consulting houses. That's where most of these like people who pass out from the best schools end up going, and these companies have the best talent. That's similar in football, right? Like the elite players who are at the top of their game, for whatever reason, the history of the club, the amount of success they have, or the talent pool that they have, everyone is attracted to that. So I think no matter what happens in life, that's always going to be the case. Let that be football, let that be sport, let that just be life in general. If tomorrow, like one of us, if we end up going to Harvard, we will want to, like, work for the best company in the world, or be surrounded by people who are intellectually smarter than us or at our levels, so that we grow, get successful in our career. So I feel it's very relatable to what players would also want, right? And that's the reason I think all these players, a very small handful of players who are like so good in what they do, they end up playing for the biggest clubs in the world, because that's the draw and that's the ambition that they have.
And I think the one other thing to add to that is I think players want to move to big clubs. And even if that big club is not successful right now, like say, for example, maybe 2 years back, players moving to United, I think there's a faith that they are such a big club, there will always be pressure to be successful. There's all
There's
like
history, right? There's so much
Yeah.
history attached to it.
Exactly. And there'll constantly be pressure on the board of directors. There will be pressure on the manager to be successful. And if that doesn't happen, they will look to change things to make sure they're successful. They will never accept being below, whatever, top four or top one or two. Gui, what are your
Like they're
thoughts
too
on
big
this?
to fail, It's like they're too big to fail.
Correct. That's what we said about Arsenal as well. But I think I don't know if that's still the case.
So now that Malu's mentioned it, like even when I think about F1, right, McLaren were not having a good time, but then there was that constant redevelopment. The same thing with Ferrari. Like there is always going to be pressure there, always. No, I can't think of thing barring one racer who can command whatever he wants at the moment. I don't think there's anyone going to go just say no. Like, no, I do not want to be part of this team. Like, you would be part of that team just for the 4 years and hope that there is a turnaround and you win in a Ferrari, right? And that's, I mean, Malu put it very well. It just gave me another, like, parallel with a different sport also. Like, Ferrari too big to fail. You Similar thing with McLaren, right? I mean, they've had a bad patch, but that kind of pressure is going to be there. Now that I think of it, this is the draw with United, isn't it?
Mumbai Indians,
Oh.
similar thing, the Ambanis will make sure there's pressure.
It's kind of wild that uh, even when these big clubs are not like doing well, the sheer desire to be part of these clubs, like Madrid can pick out any young talent they want, and that guy's going to be playing for them in 3 months or at best a year. If you just look at the signings, all of the under 21 signings, those guys have been brilliant. I don't know how many they've lost out on. They got Vinicius, they got Odegaard when Odegaard was a thing, right? I think one of the guys they did lose out on was Gerard Deulofeu, if I'm not mistaken. He was one of the guys who chose Barca over, and of course then got loaned out to a host of other clubs and came back. But still, like, it's just the draw is so big towards these teams. Now, that's where I still at least feel like it's slightly different in the NBA, where you go
Mhm.
if LeBron's moving to a small side, we'll move with him, as opposed to let's go to this side because there's history over there. Of course, barring the Lakers and the Celtics, right? Those two are like, they operate almost independently as exceptions in the league. But yes, NBA moves are slightly more player dominated. Like, if you believe there's going to be a good group of players there, as opposed to if Madrid has a garbage squad, they'll build one. You're fine. You still move.
No, and that's a good comparison because I actually wanted to jump into kind of a comparison between US sports versus sports outside US, right? And I think this is similar to a theme that we discussed previously. I think when we discussed our college sports episode, US sports have this strange thing where teams can move. It's a very strange thing, which is alien to at least European football, It's a very alien concept. Barcelona
What do you
is
mean by that?
Barcelona.
What do you mean by that?
So
Teams
say
can
for
move?
example, like there was a team called the Oakland Raiders. The team owners didn't feel like the city was giving them enough support. So they moved to Las Vegas. So now it's the Las Vegas Raiders. So football teams, and the
Oh.
same thing exists for basketball. So basketball, there used to be a team actually in the league called the Seattle Supersonics. They're no longer a team. The team that is the Charlotte Hornets used to previously be the New Orleans Hornets. So teams can move location, which is a very weird thing. And obviously, teams with a lot of history, like we were saying, like the LA Lakers and things like that, will unlikely ever move. Those will probably not move. But the
Sorry,
rest,
just one question. When you
yep.
say teams can move cities, do you mean like, for example, if there's team A in Pune and it's called Pune FC, and this crowd is not giving them enough support, and they decide to move to Mumbai, so do they maintain the same squad of the team? The entire team gets demolished, and then Mumbai has to like build a new squad and new players, or just the change of name
No, just
and
change of
location?
name and location. Change of name and
All
location.
right.
Change of name. But it's a
Alright.
strange thing because your whole sort of fan. So it's hard to build history is the issue.
Yeah.
Because if your fan
yeah.
base is location based, building history is a little bit weirder, right? So I think as a result, I think what Gui was saying, loyalty based on history doesn't exist as much. There are basically two teams that it really exists for. Like you'll go to a place for legacy. Most, or here it may be a little bit more like hometown based. You might go to the place where your hometown city is based, but not that many teams have that much of a history. So it's a little bit different than US sports. And I think there's also one other nuance to bring up between US sports more broadly. The fundamental thing that affects it the most, I think, is the number of players that you have, right? A player's power is determined by how much influence he has on the game. So, for example, basketball, we see this huge impact because it's basically 5 players on the court. If you're the best player of the 5, you have a huge amount of power. That power gets reduced when you look at football. And then when you look at something like a baseball, it's similar, right? There's so many players. Now, there are certain key roles that exist. And baseball has an interesting thing because of the longevity of baseball. People get like 11-year, 12-year contracts. It's this bizarre, like extremely long-term contracts. And then you take to the other extreme of player power, American football. Barring the quarterback, almost everyone in your team is somewhat indispensable. And so really players have very, very, very limited power. So it does vary a little bit by team sports, I think. In terms of where this is going, I don't think we're ever going back to a period where if someone signed a 5-year contract, they're going to be at the club for 5 years. There is absolutely no assurance of that. Even when the player wants to, in the case like Messi, there's a good chance they may not even be able to keep him. So perfect, guys. So we've seen a lot of like crazy transfers happen in the last few years, right? Players moving all over the place, basically. Messi and Ronaldo just moved this transfer season. In basketball, we saw Russell Westbrook move to the Lakers. It's gone off the chains. Guys, by the next time when we discuss this next year, when we've reviewed the transfer season next year, who is one player each of you would say, any sport you want to pick, that's going to be a crazy move by the end of next transfer season? Main season. I mean, you can include Jan, but I feel like Jan, not that much happens in football, at least.
See, in football, obviously, like there are some of the obvious players like Mbappe and Haaland and I don't know, maybe Pogba. Although I wouldn't put Pogba in their category, I think these players are like perhaps bigger than Pogba. But yeah, I would personally love if both these guys come to the Premier League, which I don't see happen. So I just feel like Mbappe to Real Madrid would be a transfer that would happen, which honestly, like, it wouldn't surprise me because anyways the saga has been going on forever.
Yep.
But what I think would be very interesting is who Man City sign as their striker, because they might go in for Kane again. Haaland, I think his next season, his what do you say, that clause,
Release clause.
there's a clause in his contract, release clause in his contract. Yeah, it comes down to like 50 or 65 million or something like that. So I think that would be very interesting to see who Man City sign as the number 9. So I wouldn't, to answer your question, I wouldn't go for a specific player, but I would basically go for who Man City get as number 9, because I think they'll have some interesting options.
And for me, it's where Haaland signs in the Premier League. I think he's coming to the Prem. Now, the question is he going to
You think so? I actually have a feeling that he might go to the Spanish league also.
Can
Real
they
Madrid is
afford
busting.
anyone? I'm very confused on who can
Dude,
afford to
if
do
Real
anything.
Madrid are happy to spend 180 million on Mbappe, I'm sure they can afford it.
Yeah, true.
But obviously, I don't think Madrid will end up with both of them. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I think one,
Uh,
yeah.
That's like that's the same amount which should run 800 clubs in Spain. Their combined transfer fee. It's just bizarre. But I'm really excited to see who Haaland picks because no one's staying at Dortmund, right, for long enough. Even Klopp move like that. That's how sad the story is for Dortmund. So where he moves to, does he go to Chelsea? Does he go to United, City, or either of the Spanish teams? Because again, I don't think there's enough space in PSG at the moment. Won't be for the next 2 years either. So it's between these five for me.
So I'm gonna switch to basketball. I'm gonna do what I think is a good chance, and what I think is more would be more surprising. I actually think Russell Westbrook by the end of the season leaves LA Lakers as well. I think he's been on the move for 3 seasons on the trot. I think he'll make it a fourth season on the trot. I don't think he's going to enjoy playing with other, again, like experience being like the third man essentially on this team. I think he moves. And I'm also going to say Zion Williamson. I think Zion Williamson, unless New Orleans take a big step this season, I think he's out there too. But from a football perspective, it's so hard to picture any of those. I really wanted to say Neymar. I want to say that like Neymar is going to feel the same way, at the end of, he literally
he's going to move.
He literally left Barcelona to leave Messi, and the fucking guy followed him to PSG. So I assume that he would fucking leave PSG also now. But he just resigned. So I think he only resigned in May, which was I think before Messi joined. So I don't think he knew Messi was going to join. But
imagine Ibrahimovic comes to the ISL.
That would be sweet. I don't think we could. I don't think
that would be mad if he joins Mumbai City FC or some shit like that.
He trashed the MLS so much when he was there, and he trashed all the MLS players publicly. I don't know what he'd do if he ends up here. Like it's just going to be a barrage of terrible interviews because he's going to be as honest as he always is. It's not going to go.
Well, I mean, one huge credit is Zlatan. He might be the only player I know who's gone to the MLS and then made it back to the European top leagues. Like, I've never heard of that happening. Like, once they leave for MLS, it's like, okay, it's done. Now it's finished.
Oh, Beckham came back. He played for Paris and AC Milan.
Right, that is true. Although I feel like his return.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's very rare. Very
right.
Rare.
And like as a major contributor, like I feel like Zlatan can still reasonably significantly contribute to a team, whereas I feel like Beckham for PSG was kind of a farewell tour almost, like as he
I think Beckham for PSG was more like charitable because I think he gave a 6-month salary like just for charity or something like that.
Exactly.
And I also think I wouldn't be
brand
surprised
building.
if PSG just got him for brand building. Yeah, I was just getting to that.
Exactly.
This is brand building.
Perfect. So with that, thank you both so much, everyone listening. Do leave your thoughts and comments on any other interesting thoughts that you've noticed in how the transfers have kind of moved over recent years. Any transfers you've enjoyed, any that you've hated. Let us know in the comment section. Of course, do the usual things that anyone who puts out a video or podcast will tell you: like, share, subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. We also have a website that has a whole bunch of sports content. We have all our episodes there, as well as blog articles on sports. If you're interested in it, do check it out. That'll be linked in the description. With that, thanks so much. Have a great week. Take care. Bye. If you like this episode, make sure to leave a like and share it with anyone else who might be interested. You can also subscribe on any social media platform that you prefer, and all our links are in the bio. We also have a website with all our episodes as well as blogs and a whole lot of other sports content, so make sure to check that out as well.